you guys are gonna get a book like this that just has, you know, the houses on it, the price sheets are in the front.
We have them, yes. We
Okay,
all have them.
well, also, there are standard upgrades.
Keep them.
Somewhere.
One more. Nope.
Oh, here
Oh,
it is.
there it is. Yeah.
Standard upgrades for that model. Those upgrades are things like a metal roof, a Key West front,
Tile through the body.
tile,
Impact windows.
impact windows, those kinds of things. So you need to familiarize yourself, because these are the most common questions. That way you don't have to go to the computer to look it up, but these are the common questions that you'll have.
And if we have somebody in there that's asking those questions, we can open that book and show them?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah, you
You
can tell
don't give them a
Well,
copy of our
No.
price sheet.
But just, you can tell them how much.
that's
Yeah.
fine.
And where that's
Yeah.
helpful as well is even showing them where the tiled areas will be. It's all highlighted in
Yeah.
yellow, so that really helps as well for them to see it.
The,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, so where were we?
We were gonna talk about builder's risk insurance,
Okay, you're
just
gonna
to
ask-
clarify.
Is that on?
Yes.
I probably said that wrong in the beginning. The builder's risk, we pay for the builder's risk in our contract. The builder's risk insurance works like this. We have appliances delivered, an air conditioner delivered to the house. It's sitting in the garage, the AC guy's coming tomorrow to install it. If it's stolen, we pay the deductible. That's what I was telling you wrong.
Okay.
So before it's installed, it's ours. We pay the deductible. It's covered by insurance, but we pay the deductible. When it's installed, it's still covered by our insurance, except the owner pays the deductible. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because now it's their property, not ours. And that's if it's not an end loan, and we'll get to that later. But that's the difference, and I didn't tell you that in the beginning. So we pay the deductible if it's not installed, they pay the deductible once it's installed. And we've had all kinds of things stolen out of houses, windows taken out, everything, but nobody ever sees anybody there.
Of course not.
Does that clarify everybody's?
Is there a portable camera we could put in when a house is being built? Just something.
They actually have construction cameras you can put in,
I
Okay,
think that would be really
and
good.
services that do
I
it.
want to tell you just a little bit more about these lots, because I think it's really important, because that's going to become a very expensive proposition as we go on with all these price increases. Lots are going to go up, clearing is going to go up. The best thing you can do for your client, if you're involved with a lot, is if this is the street elevation, and the dirt is down here, when you look at the lot, if you're looking down at the dirt on the lot, let's say the dirt's down here, you're better off to try to find something with the dirt here, at least close to the road level or higher. And I'll tell you why. Because every foot of dirt costs about $1,500. So if it's 3 feet from here to there, to the finished floor, it's about $4,500 in dirt.
So what does it cost to take dirt off if it's too high?
Well, it costs about, I don't know, $60 a load or something.
Yeah.
And a load's 10 cubic yards of dirt, 10 to 12.
I think the last time I priced Red, he told me it was $1,800 a foot.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay, so 1,800. That's a lot. So the best thing you can do for your client, if you're involved in a lot, is suggest that they find a lot that's at least street level or higher, and the fewer trees, the better, because they all have to be taken out. And you'll read that in our contract as well.
Yeah, because that's one of the things as well, especially up north. They're like, well, I'd like to preserve this tree and I want to preserve this tree. That conversation is a hard conversation to have,
Well, we can't do it for
because
drainage.
sometimes they have an affinity for them.
Yeah, you have lot drainage problems, and I'll show you that. The typically when you look at houses in Port St. Lucie, they're clear up here, right? That's about 32 to 36 inches above the street, the finished floor. So the driveways all go up, right? The The reason that is years ago, when we built houses in Port St. Lucie, there was no water and sewer. Those houses were built on septic tanks. So, here you are going down the street. Here's this house. Well, forget that. Here's, the ground's built up, and this house is built on this lot, right? So now here's the street. And so now you buy this lot that goes from here to here. There's a house over here, and this house is built up here, because these were built with septic tanks. So the health department tells you where to set the septic tank to get it above the water table, so the system will work, the drainage field, the leach bed will work. So they set the bottom of the drain field. They give you that information, and you have to adjust the house, the finished floor above that, so the plumbing will drain into this septic system, right? That's why those houses that are older were built up, because they were septic tank. Okay? So now they put the city water and sewer in. Well, when you have city water and sewer, typically you only have to be 18 inches above the street with your finished floor. But you're not allowed to go between two houses and put your house down here, because all this water is going to drain on you. So now you've got to put your house up here, even though you don't have a septic tank. That's why they're so high. Now, if you go into Sandpiper Bay, you'll see that they're all on the street, 18 inches above the street. So if you bought a lot in Sandpiper, you would put it 18 inches above the street. But anywhere else, pretty much anywhere else in the city, that's why it's the way it is. And you cannot dump your water on your neighbor. You have to have a ditch on your side of the property that drains the water out to the street. Therefore, you don't only fill the area where the pad is, you have to, that has to be level 5 feet beyond the slab on these all around it, and then it slopes down no greater than a 4-to-1 slope to the property line. So you have to fill the whole lot. You don't just fill where the pad is. But there is a way to do it differently. This is typical, because you could use a stem wall. Does anybody know what that is? Just-
Expensive.
Huh?
Expensive.
Yeah, it costs more money. Typically, a slab looks like this. Okay,
Get your rebar in there.
this is the finished floor. This is the dirt outside. This is the grade. These are 2 steel rods that go completely around the house, and we'll get more into that when we do the wall section. And your blocks sit up on top of here, right? Okay, so this is the typical slab they use in Port St. Lucie. Sometimes there's what they call a stem wall, and it looks like this. And then from here, you could put a ledger block and pour the slab in here. Okay, so you can see what happens here. This is 6 inches. This from the slab, the finished floor, to where the dirt is outside. If you use a stem wall, you can put as many courses in there as you need to get the finished floor up above the flood zone. That's something else about lots too, floodplain.
What
So-
are you using to get it up there?
Huh?
What are you using?
What do you mean?
What is that?
These are block.
Okay,
This is a footer.
gotcha.
This goes clear around the perimeter, then you stack block on it. So it raises your finished floor. Now you pour the floor, and then you finish putting the block of the house on it. Does that make sense? So when you put this is what they call stem wall here, and then this gets all filled with dirt inside the house, under the slab, which makes you end up doing the same. This is dirt under here too. So you could take, this grade is 6 inches from the floor here, this grade could start clear down here. Doesn't matter, as long as you cover this footer. because there's no frost line here. Up north, this had to be 32 inches below the dirt, the bottom of the footer, because of the frost line. So up north, which doesn't make, but you could do this here. This could be a floor joist, and this would be called a crawl space because there would be no dirt under it. The dirt would be clear down here, so you'd have all this open,
Lot of
that
houses
much
built
open
that way.
space.
A lot of houses.
You're
were built.
familiar with that, right?
Mhm.
That was called a crawl space. Here it's a stem wall because this is concrete and this is all dirt up underneath it. So you have to fill that inside before you pour the slab.
Oh.
That makes sense? So that's how you could get this house higher up to this level without putting all the dirt there.
So they still,
But you-
have to do a compaction inside the stone wall?
They have to compact this down here before they start the footers. You don't have to do it inside. They compact it, but you don't, there's
Okay.
no test for
Well, I
it
didn't know
inside.
because of the floating
Because this
floor.
is just a supporting, if you use a ledger block, the edges are 4 foot on that block that's holding the whole thing up, which is resting down on this. Does that make sense? Did that answer your question? Okay, so finish 4, in this area, you have to be 9 foot above the sea level to be out of the flood, 100-year flood zone. So, and that will be disclosed when you get a survey. It'll give you how high you are above the sea level. And if you're less than a 9 foot, then you have to buy flood insurance. Or you don't have to, but most lenders require it. Most of those requirements are for lenders. If somebody's paying cash, they can buy whatever they want. Anybody have any questions on this for now? Okay. So I think this is probably as good a place to stop as any. One more thing just real quickly I want to say is, we're going to get a lot of these forms. By the time we get through this 3 days, you're going to see a lot of these different forms. Every one of these things we're giving you will probably require initials by the buyer to make a completed contract. We'll go over that again with the contract, but there's a very specific reason for this, and the reason is people get confused. I'll just give you one quick example. We did a house, we started a house, it was done, and remember I told you this could change every quarter? Bill brought a buyer in and he bought a house with these features, and he signed this form. We'll keep that in the file. So Bill's client came, it wasn't Bill, by the way.
I'm just like, which one?
So
I'd
Bill's
like him.
client comes back in, he's in model, right? He picks up our new price sheet, he's been in this house a year, and he picks up the price sheet, and he's looking at it. He sees on here, now this was pre-Hurricane Andrew,
Oh, jeez.
yeah, which was in '04, or not '04. Whatever, it was before that, yeah. But anyway, the guy came in and he had our new feature sheet. Prior to Hurricane Andrew, we didn't put impact glass in. It was very uncommon to anybody to use impact glass. And it didn't even have, we didn't have to have storm shutters in either. But anyway, he came in with the new feature sheet and said to me, this is when we were putting impact glass in, it must have been. He said, no, there was impact glass. He said, look right there. Says I was supposed to get impact glass. Well, first of all, I'm like, what? You know. So I take the sheet and I said, well, let me go get your file. So I went and got his file and I looked at it and it said standard glass with hurricane panels. And I said, whose initials are those on that page? He said, they're mine. I said, do you see what it says on there? He said, yeah. I said, where did you get that paper? He said, well, I was in the model over there. And I picked it up and looked at it. Well, this is what you bought. You didn't buy at that that, you didn't buy what's on that feature sheet, nor did you pay for what's on that feature sheet. So it was, I mean, he was fine, he realized what he did, but that's what happens. That's why we get people to initial everything, the floor plans, the feature sheets, the price sheet, everything we talk about, we make them initial, because that happens all the time.
You know, but you need to flip it when you have that conversation with the buyer as well, and really it's to protect them, because a lot of times the
Absolutely.
conversation is had, and it's important that everything we speak about, that feature sheet, is actually part of your contract.
And that's why I was telling you about the person that bought the Madison with the 2 pair of shutters.
Mm-hmm.
They said, now it clearly says no stone, but it doesn't say that the 2 shutters aren't there. So guess what?
And Bill said, "I'll get them."
So if we agree to do it, we'll do it. If it's not in writing, nothing you say verbally is going to matter to me. The only thing that's going to matter to me is what I can read on the paper.
Because unfortunately, a lot of these people talk about things. Impact glass, Icynene. You know what? I'll go over with Angie, and if I decide I want it, I'll do it on a cash sheet. And then they come back and go, "Oh no, we talked about impact glass. You said I got it." I'm like, "No."
We just for
It is true,
example, we
yeah.
had a guy that came in and bought a house. He bought it as an end loan, and he thought he was getting a wood staircase, wood railings and stuff, instead of a half wall. Well, my first instinct was, no, you're not. But then I went back and looked it up, the date of his contract and what our features were at that time and what our brochures might have said, and he did. So we gave it to him. I mean, because that's the only right thing to do. But if we didn't, we're not doing it. We're only going to do what we say, and that's why people, when they go to builders or realtors or whatever, they only hear what they want to hear, and that's what they buy based on. They don't know what they're doing. And, you know, they hear the cheaper price or a better price. Say, oh, well, this guy's giving you this. Well, maybe he's giving you this, but he's not giving you all that stuff. And what I do, and I just did it last week, was a person came to me that a builder started his house and went broke, and he wants it refinished, and he's talking to a couple builders, and he said, well, that guy did this for us. And I said, really? So what I did was I got his information, and I compared what he was getting and what he wasn't getting compared to what we bid and what we did bid. And we were $3,800 cheaper than the other. So you just have to do the homework, and you have to understand what your people are saying, and you can be successful selling these houses.